Can you hear me? Huh. Huh. Jeez. So no one can hear you. Okay. Everyone, could you please forgive us? We're having a bit of a technical difficulty here with Lloyd's audio. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. Good evening, everyone. This is Shamoon Khakan.
Okay, guys, I should have audio. Are you guys hearing me now? Just let me know that you can hear my audio. Okay, is my audio coming through now? Yes, my audio is coming through. Guys, I don't know what happens.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I use Zoom for work, and somehow it seems that Zoom and then disabling Zoom and then switching to Skype affects my audio setup somehow. It interferes with my audio drivers, and when I run OBS, it upsets my, yeah. So yeah, switching between the different guys, I do apologize for that. I should have checked in advance, but yeah, I think the conflict between Zoom and Skype is causing this, and it affects my audio drivers switching from work because I literally just finished work. Guys, hey, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think I'm known for having these little tiny audio glitches. And I'm here with Shamoon Khakan again. His channel is The Crosstalk. It is in the description. Please go over there, give him your support, and watch his fantastic shows. So, yeah, today we're here again to go on part two to discuss Islam and women. I wanted to title the show The Religion of Wife Beating, but I thought that would be a little too provocative. So, Shamoon, please, I'll let you start to introduce yourself and then tell the audience what we're here to discuss.
Okay, so my name is Shamoon Khakan, as some of you already know. Tonight we will be. Last week we had a discussion about a quick comparative discussion about treatment of women in Islam and in Christianity. And as I was talking with Lloyd, and he was really, getting into it, one of the things that came out was a stream. There was like many streams of issues, at least to me, that were very problematic. So what I wanted to do was narrow down on one stream of issue that comes out of Islamic perspective of women, and that is the issue of wife beating or even women beating. So what we wanted to look at today was, does Islamic theology encourage the beating of wives and women at large? Um, a lot of my Muslim friends have said no. There's, you'll find these memes coming up and being posted on Facebook, and they'll send me. I think even today, one local Muslim theologian sent me tagged me on Facebook, and the video was all about the fact that how women have rights, etc., etc. So the issue is not that women have no rights in Islam. The issue that I've come across is that though they may have some rights in Islam, there is also a very problematic side to Islamic perspective of women and how they should be treated. Okay, so tonight that's what we wanted to talk about. Is so what we're going to do is we're going to go through this whole issue in three steps. Right, first we are going to look at the Quran. Then we're going to talk about the Quran in light of the Hadith. That's step two. And then lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to look into some of the Sharia law. And well, that's if we still have time. Um, so yeah, that's what we're going to do, is to look at it from all three perspectives: the Quran, the Hadith, and the Sharia law, and what the scholars say, etc., etc. So yeah, so first of all, what I wanted to start was with Surah 434.
So
For
I'll
those,
display that. I'll bring that up.
yeah, so you could please bring that
It's
up
here.
and we could just read that. Mine's a little
Right.
small.
So Surah 434. Now, guys, I'm using a website called Quranx.com. Okay, Quranx.com. One of the reasons I do so is you'll see here, this is 434, but you can see there are 7 tafsirs and 6 hadiths. So if you click on this, it'll take you to the related tafsirs and also the related hadiths. So all collected together in one place. Now this says men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. Men are in charge of women in Pickthall. Men are the protectors and maintainers of women. So also, if I want to try a different translation, like Aubrey, I can go to the translations button and bring up Aubrey. Men are the managers of the affairs of women, for that God has preferred in bounty one over another. So in this case, we can see that men are superior to women, and for that they have expended their property. Righteous women are therefore obedient, guarding the secret for God's guarding. What that means is they will guard their chastity. In other words, they will make sure that they do not engage in illicit sexual activity. That's what they mean. As for those from whom you fear rebellion, now this does not say from those whom you have witnessed rebellion or those who have rebelled. It says those from whom you suspect there may be rebellion. In other words, they simply won't obey you. Admonish them and banish them to their beds apart and scourge them. Scourge is to beat with a whip, as you know. Then if they obey you, seek not to weigh against them. If we look at the Yusuf Ali translation, it says beat them. This section in
Yeah.
brackets that says lightly, that means that the translator inserted that. That is not in the original text. Your thoughts, Shamoun?
Yeah, I've also read up a lot of different translations, and one of the things that I came across was that majority translations in this specific verse talks about beating, and there was one, I must say, that actually used the word lightly beat or lightly hit or something like that. So the word lightly and slightly was added into the text, and there is nothing in the Arabic, in this verse here that actually suggests that there's lightly or whatever the case is. So yeah,
Correct.
um,
Actually, let me go to that specifically if I can. You'll see here. So first, what I have here is O25.3 from the Reliance of the Traveler from the Sharia law. A people that leave its leadership to a woman will never succeed, just as a point of interest. But the word in the Arabic is waidribuhunna from the root dadraba. Depending on context, it means to beat, to strike, to hit, the making of a thing falling upon another thing, to discipline, to train, to cast forth, throw or fling, to stamp or beat with a mallet, a sword, or to hit like with a tent peg or a mallet. With a toothbrush is not in the context. And I got that from Chris Israel. Thanks for that. So this is what it means to beat, the way you would beat a tent peg into the ground with a mallet. Your
yeah,
thoughts,
sure.
Shaman?
Yeah, well, as I was going through all of this data around Surah 434, I think that it's time now that we look into the issue of the scholars. Is that this whole issue of toothbrush has come up? You see, it has definitely come up, is where you have Zakir Naik that says that no, this actually is a hitting of with a toothbrush on the forehead lightly, right? The other one would say that it is Noman Ali Khan would say that it is a hitting of on the forehead with two fingers lightly. So, well, the contemporary scholars definitely disagree as to what that means, but classical scholars actually talk about the fact that it is a beating, and I'm sure that we
Right.
you have some really interesting hadith to which will come later as we
Yeah.
go into it. Do you want to quickly look at what Shabir Ali and all of these guys talk about
Please
regarding
talk
what
about it. That'll be
their
interesting to see what they
yeah
say so then we can examine what their words.
Okay, so first of all, Shabir Ali actually quickly dismisses hadith, right? That when you talk about hadith that revolves around this specific verse, he quickly dismisses it. He says that he doesn't accept it. So, anyways, that's his own deal. The other thing he says, which is interesting, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, is just a common reading of the text. He says that this discipline is not to be conducted by a husband. It is supposed to be conducted by an eldership team or the community at large. And though, and I'm not sure how he got to that, because the three steps of discipline is to not talk to the woman and then abandon her in the bed. That I'm assuming that means sexual, right?
Right.
So what, as in, if in the mind of Shabir Ali, is he suggesting that the community was sleeping with the wife and the community at large should abandon her in bed? Like that, to me, that doesn't make sense, and none of the scholars actually agree with him. So I'm not sure. That's also the issue.
Wow. That is
That's
just
also one of the
crazy.
issues. Yeah, yeah. It's also one of the issues that you raised, that Muslim scholars tend to boldly lie because they're actually allowed to lie about their
Yes.
own
They're
religion, right?
required to lie. They are required to lie. Don't forget, guys, that Islam is the perfect religion. Today I've perfected your religion for you. So, of course, Islam has replaced all other religions. It has abrogated them because Islam is perfect and the other religions are, as you know, corrupt. So, Islam cannot be imperfect. And of course, Islam cannot be insulted. Muhammad cannot be insulted. So, therefore, if anything would disparage Muhammad, it is illegal for a Muslim to say it. And we also not to be allowed to say things. So, therefore, they have to deny all their own scriptures that disparage, insult, or present Muhammad or Islam or Allah in a bad light. So this
Sure.
gives them
Yeah,
a massive conflict.
and
Yep.
but even in according to Shabir Ali's, Dr. Shabir Ali's justification and his commentary on Surah 434, that it's the community at large that is supposed to conduct this discipline. Um, at
I
least in my
don't
mind,
look
that
honestly.
doesn't.
Who
It still
agrees to have
doesn't
the
make it better.
community beat their wife for them?
I don't know, but even let's just for argument's sake that is the case. How is that better?
Yeah,
How is that better at all? Why should the woman be beaten for anything, right? Like people have free will, or should at least have free will to choose to be upset or whatever the case is with their spouses and all of that. Violence at any stage shouldn't be justified, regardless of how it's actually conducted within a community. So yeah, so that was Shabir Ali's justification, which I must say uh, really sounded very weak to me, and it just did not correspond with the scholars at all, at all, at all. Then we have Muhammad Hijab. I'm sure you've heard of Muhammad
hmm
Hijab. Yeah, the lion supposedly. Um, so talks about the fact that this beating is beating in self defense. For example, when the wife is trying to, he actually even suggests that it's even whereby the wife is trying to kill the child in the marriage. So stuff like that, where she's gone nuts and there's a serious fight, and where she is being violent and she wants to take somebody's life, should the
There is
man
no
then,
context like that. For instance, it is
yeah,
allowed in Islam a for a father or a grandfather of child to kill that child if the child is, for instance, misbehaving and bringing dishonor upon the family. So, murder of your children for reasons of honor is legal within Islam. So I mean that we can. That's a different conversation. But no, there is no context that where this is discussed.
yeah, just in my normal reading of Surah 4, 34, 33, and 35, which is before and after, I don't find the whole issue of, you see, the issue is that in Surah 434, the rebellion of the wife is not really defined by the Quran. It's defined by the scholars.
Well,
And
also, the
it's,
Quran doesn't say someone who has rebelled, it says someone from whom you fear that they may disobey you, someone that you suspect may disobey you. It doesn't say
yeah,
someone who has, someone you
now,
think has intentions to. And how they rebel is not defined.
exactly. But now, even looking at this whole issue, is that the Quran is using the word rebellion and disobedience. Now, I'm not sure which one would be a better translation. However, it does not say from whom you are to defend yourself and then apply these three steps or whatever the case is. So I'm not sure where he's getting Muhammad Hijab is getting that from.
Well,
I did, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to read something. This is Maududi. You guys should really get familiar with this guy. Maududi was a very famous Pakistani 20th century theologian. His writings are very, very popular in
Yeah,
the Muslim world today. He says,
yeah.
for instance, if light admonition proves effective, there is no need to resort to a more severe step. As to a beating, the Prophet allowed it very reluctantly, and even then did not like it. But the fact is, there are certain women who do not mend their ways without a beating. The
Wow.
Prophet has instructed that she would not be beaten on the face or cruelly or with anything which might leave a mark on the body. Now,
Huh.
that is to be disputed, but he is not stating, and none of the tafsir claim that there is no beating allowed. They all define how the beating is allowed. And to me, this actually
Yeah.
looks like whitewashing of the situation more than anything else. But none of them dispute the fact that
Well, yeah.
beating is allowed.
What I do see is like a contemporary Islamic scholars are somehow trying to run away from classical scholars such as
Yes.
Ibn Kathir as well, right? Ibn Kathir, I didn't know that Ibn Kathir was a direct student of Ibn Taymiyyah. I didn't
Yes, he
know that.
was. He was a contemporary. Same with Ibn Qayyim. They were both contemporaries.
Yeah, and Ibn Kathir actually writes, and one of the, I think I even mentioned this last time, was that Ibn Kathir actually gives reasons as to why a woman can be, the disciplinary process can be applied simply if the woman, the wife, simply dislikes her husband. That is reason enough for her to be beaten up if she simply dislikes him. Or one of the things another one he actually gives, I think he gives
So
about
actually, he
four
says
reasons.
here,
Yeah,
actually,
go
he
ahead.
writes here. So Ibn Kathir, if you look at, again, guys, if you go to Quranics, you can click on the tafsirs button. There are 7 tafsirs and 6 hadiths. If we
Yeah,
go to Ibn Kathir, it says, as to those women on whose part you see ill conduct, meaning the woman from whom you see ill conduct with her husband, such as when she acts as if she is above her husband,
yeah,
disobeys him, ignores him, or dislikes him. He says here, when
yeah.
if she
That's yes,
dislikes him.
and that's the thing. Even the first reason, if she acts like she is above her husband,
Yeah,
not that she's like it's the reasons given here by Ibn Kathir,
yeah,
a student of Ibn Taymiyyah. And what's that phrase that they use for Ibn Taymiyyah? He is Sheikh al-Islam.
Islam.
This
Yeah, I
is
mean, yeah.
this guy is defining rebellion or disobedience simply to be disliking the husband, and the husband can go berserk on her. My goodness,
Now,
that's pretty
now,
severe.
Jesus saved me says, so if you even think that maybe she will rebel, it's saying do her in pretty much beat the crap out of her. Actually, yes, that is precisely what it says. Now, I went through the Sharia last week. We will go back through that again. But right
Yeah,
now, so let's have a look quickly at Sahih Bukhari, Hadith 2559, which is book 49,
great.
Hadith 42, or volume 3, book 46, Hadith 734. It's on the screen and it's related to Quran verse 434. This again from Quranics. Narrated Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, if somebody fights or beats somebody, then he should avoid the face. Notice he didn't say you must avoid the face, just generally try to. This is related to 434. So if you fight or beat someone. Now notice Muhammad is not talking about just fighting in self-defense. He's talking about beating someone. This is willfully, voluntarily beating someone. You should avoid the face. He doesn't say you must.
Huh.
Now, this does not look to me like if he fights, okay, that's one condition, or you choose to beat someone. If you choose to beat someone, avoid the face. What are your thoughts on that? And the audience, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the language is pretty. There's not actual. It seems like there seems to be within the language a kind of restriction, but not a genuine restriction. Is that
Yeah.
try your best to do so, but if
Yes.
it doesn't work out and you get super upset, yeah, go to town with her with beating.
Yes,
It really
precisely.
it doesn't actually provide real limitations as to how the beating
Correct.
is to be conducted. Wow, man. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, and once again, whoever is watching right now and may watch in the future, please look at those words, collection Sahih Bukhari. For anyone to actually at this point say that no, we are liars or whatever the case is, we're actually just simply reading what Bukhari is saying. I think that the issue would be is then Bukhari is lying for the Muslims at least. So
Well,
yeah,
Bukhari
so
is an evil Christian missionary and an enemy of Islam. I thought this was obvious by now. Yep. So, guys, let's have a look through. So, would you mind if I step forward and go through some of the notes that I have collected, Shamoon?
yeah, perfect. Now we're let's dive into the Bukharis and the Hadith.
Okay. So let's have a talk. So let's have a look at the New Testament. Let's have a look at the apostles, and let's look at some of the things the apostles did. Um, Actually, no, we won't, because there's nothing like this in the New Testament. Kirfa Fatima was taken prisoner. She was a very old woman, wife of Malik. Zayd ordered Qais bin al blah 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 to kill Kirfa, and he killed her cruelly by putting a rope into her two legs and tied her to two camels and driving them until they tore her in two. These are the followers of Muhammad. The History of Al-Tabari, Volume 8, pages 95 to 97, and Ibn Ishaq, page 980. So, Islam teaches respect for old women by tying their legs together, attaching them to camels, driving the camels apart, and tearing old women in two. Do we have any similar stories from the apostles in the New Testament, Shimon?
My goodness, I didn't even know that this actually existed in Islam. No, we don't have anything close to this in the New Testament. Definitely not.
So, understand.
Huh.
So, obviously, as we can see, Tabari is an enemy of Islam and an evil Christian missionary. And we got this off an evil Christian missionary website, which is what we're going to see in the comments.
Hmm. This is interesting. Okay, let's continue. Wow. Okay.
Now, let's continue, okay? Now,
Yeah.
notice it does say here that this is a hadith. Now, we don't have access to these. These are all in the Arabic still. So, unfortunately, we don't have access to all of these sources. But it says here, Muhammad declared that Allah will wed me in paradise to Mary, daughter of Imran. So the Arabic word, as we said before, for marriage denotes legal sexual relations. So Muhammad felt that he would marry Mother Mary for the purposes of having sex with her. So in other words, he would Mother Mary in paradise. That was his plan. Okay. So we've also went on before, and I'll repeat some of this because it's worthwhile discussing with you guys. But here we have in At-Tabri, volume 9, page 139, that a woman approached the Prophet. She clapped him on the shoulder. Okay, so this is Layla bint al-Khattam. She said, I'm the daughter of one who competes with the wind. I am Layla bint Khattam. I've come to offer myself in marriage. He then accepted and married her. And then she went back to her people and they said, what a bad thing you have done. You are a self-respecting woman, but the Prophet is a womanizer. Seek an annulment from him. They said, she's a self-respecting woman. How could she marry this man? And they called Muhammad a womanizer. So, yeah, you tell me, a man with strong sexual morals is a womanizer. So this is the actual original text here. And At-Tabri, The Last Years of the Prophets, Volume 9. Yes?
Huh.
So
Interesting.
this is the kind of man that we are dealing with. Okay? So,
Okay. The
yeah,
I wanted to get back to the whole beating issue, the violence issue.
sure. Okay, so yeah, we can do that. Um, yeah, I wanted to speak also about a little few things about women in general, just the general attitude. But if we're going to go just to specifically beating, so let's have a look. This is again in Bukhari, chapter, well, so limits and punishment set by Allah. So narrated Aisha, Abu Bakr came towards me and struck me violently with his fist and said, "You have detained the people because of your necklace." So he beat her, the wife of the Prophet, the 6-year old, for keeping them waiting. I remained motionless, as if I was dead, lest I should wake Allah's messenger, although that hit was very painful. So she was struck violently. So this is Sunnah. Remember, don't forget that the companions of Muhammad, their Sunnah is also followed. They are righteous examples of Islam.
Huh.
So that's Sahih Bukhari 6845, Book 86, Hadith 68, or Volume 8, Book 82, Hadith 828. Here are the links on the screen. So, again on beating women, Iyas ibn Abdullah ibn Abu Dabab reported the Messenger of Allah saying, "Do not beat Allah's handmaidens, but when? But, here's the but. When Umar came to the Messenger of Allah and said, women have become emboldened towards their husbands, in other words, they aren't listening obediently, the Prophet gave permission to beat them." I'd say that's pretty blunt. That's Sunan Abu Dawud, Hadith 2146. And the women that complained, Muhammad said, they are not the best among you. So when they complained about their husbands beating them, Muhammad said, "You shut up. You people are not good women."
Huh.
Yeah, you said many women have gone around Muhammad's family complaining against their husbands. They are not the best among you. So the women who complained about being beaten were regarded as ill-mannered women. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm kind of lost of words right now.
Okay, so let's continue with
Struck.
Aisha. We're looking at Sahih Muslim, Book 4, Hadith number 2127. He struck me on the chest, which caused me pain, and then said, "Did you think that Allah and his apostle would deal unjustly with you?" In other words,
Okay.
it was
Wait.
just to hit her.
Just give me a moment here on just to comment on this one. Now, Noman Ali Khan, I think I've taken that guy's
Hmm.
name quite a few times already, at least with you. On Surah 434, he talks about beating, and he says that we should understand the whole beating issue with the way the Prophet, the Islamic Prophet, has done it. And then he actually talks about the fact that how we should understand is take two fingers and lightly smack on the forehead, though that is not less insulting. However, if even if he talks about the fact that we should understand the beating part in the way, and we should practice it in the way Muhammad did it, he hit his wife, his child bride,
On the
hard
chest.
enough to cause her pain.
On the chest,
And
not on her
still
forehead with
remembering
his
that,
two fingers.
yeah, not with, and hard enough to cause the child bride pain. She was still a child. He
Yeah.
hit her hard enough to cause a child pain.
Well, Aisha is
That's
an
it.
evil Christian missionary who's an enemy of Islam, and we got this on a Christian missionary website where we just copied and pasted it. That's what the Muslims are going to say. That's what they always say.
Well, my encouragement is to everyone is like really honestly just look at the sources really.
Right. So
Uh,
let's look at At-Tabari,
okay.
who's on a roll tonight.
Yeah.
Allah permits you to shut them in separate rooms and to beat them. So lock them away, lock them up and beat them. Now, of course, this section is not anywhere in the original text, but not severely. If they abstain, they have the right to food and clothing. If they don't abstain, well, maybe they don't get to be freed. They stay locked up and they don't have the right to food and clothing. Is this what you get from this sentence, Shuman?
My goodness, treat women well, for they are like domestic animals and they possess nothing themselves.
Yes. Allah has made the enjoyment of their bodies lawful in His Quran, and if they won't get off their camel to service you whenever you want, well, you know what the punishment is.
So if according to this here, right, this one, and Kathir Ibn Kathir says that If the wife simply is like upset with the husband that evening and is now disliking her husband, I can take my wife, lock her up like an animal, like a
Yeah,
domestic animal,
and not feed her.
in a separate room, do whatever, and beat her, and
Deny her food and clothing.
because they do not possess anything themselves. Huh.
Yeah. And of course, we've seen before, the Prophet said, none of you should flog. Now, to flog is to whip. None of you should whip your wife the way you whip your slave and then have sex with her in the evening. There are multiple hadith. I use Sahih Bukhari, but you'll find this in Malik. You'll find this in Abu Dawud, and I think you'll find a couple of these. It's the same, the very same one is repeated multiple times. I just use Bukhari as the best example, of course. So do not flog your wife the way you flog a slave and then have sex with her in the last part of the day. In other words, flog her differently. Because if she, after
So,
she's been
so
whipped and
flogger.
beaten, she might not be in the best mood for, So,
Okay,
so this is what, yeah,
and that's Sahih Bukhari, and that's Bukhari once again.
that is Bukhari. And now I want to read you from Malik. Now, this is something that I need to explain. So, in Islam,
Yeah.
there's the law of suckling. So, for instance, there is a law in the Hidayah, and I'll explain this. If a man, which says bluntly, it says explicitly, if a man is married to an adult woman and to an infant, right? An infant is a child from 0 to 1 year old. Okay, that's a baby.
Yeah.
An infant.
Yeah.
If a man is married to two women, one an adult and one an infant, the adult woman is not allowed to suckle the infant. In other words, the infant is not allowed. That's not the 5 times thing. The adult woman is not allowed to give milk from her breast to the child because legally this makes the child her daughter and it makes it the husband's daughter. Therefore, the husband cannot have
Huh.
sex with his daughter. That would be incest. Understand? So, this
Yeah.
is the law in
Yeah.
Islam. This is very much the law. Now,
Huh.
let's have a look at this. So this is how this law works. Okay. So, Yahya related to me from Malik that blah, blah, blah said
Okay.
a man came to blah, blah, blah and asked him about the suckling of an older person. This is someone who's an adult. Okay. A man came to Umar ibn al-Khattab and said, I have a slave girl and I used to have sex with her. My wife went to her and suckled her. So, in other words, the slave girl sucked on her breast and became her daughter. When I went to the girl, my wife told me to watch out because she had suckled her. In other words, she'd made the girl his daughter. And to have sex with her now would be incest. Umar told him to beat his wife and to go have sex with his slave girl because kinship by suckling was only by the suckling of the young.
Oh my goodness. Huh.
So Umar told him to beat his wife. Your thoughts,
And to go
and from the
reverse the
audience.
process. So he was instructed to reverse the process, is
Ignore the
to
process.
uh,
Ignore the law.
ignore the process and to kind of like, discipline his wife for tricking him into not having sex with the slave girl.
Yeah, because she didn't like that he was having sex with another woman, right? In the household, she wants a husband, right? She doesn't want a husband fooling around with slave girls.
Other
So
women, yeah.
now,
So
so
that's
Umar,
interesting.
yep.
That's very interesting. Like if you just like take this situation and just unpack this situation for a second, whereby a wife is simply being a woman who loves her husband, who desires not her husband to cheat on her, and he's allowed to cheat on her, and she gets beaten up, and she's not allowed necessarily to be in a place where she's like, okay, please don't do this, I love you, let's kind of make this work between you and I. She's not allowed to do that. She's
No,
just
the
shut
husband is
up,
allowed to
like.
do as he wants. Remember, there's the hadith I showed last week where it says that even if a woman is riding on her camel and her husband wants her, she has to get off her camel and service him straight away without hesitation. Otherwise, she can be punished. Michael asks, why is sexual language like sex so explicit in these texts? Remember, they accuse us from the biblical side of things that the biblical is a porn novel and the Bible's a porn novel. But uh, if you look for the word semen look for the word ejaculation, look for the word um, wet dream. If you search for that, go to Quranics, search for wet dreams, you're going to find copious references to these things. It's crazy. Um, Muslims are woefully blind to what's in their own texts. Let me do one more. Narrated blah blah blah. The chief of Khaybar. Now they denigrate the man here. They deliberately denigrate him. Okay, the chief of Khaybar was a defiant and abominable man. Why? Because he spoke against Muhammad. And why did he speak against Muhammad? Well, let's find out. He came to Muhammad and he said, "Is it proper for you, Muhammad, that you slaughter our donkeys, eat our fruit, and beat our women?" So he goes to Muhammad and says, "Muhammad, is it proper for you to beat our women?" And the Prophet, of course, became angry. Muhammad became angry. Okay? So Mo gets angry for being asked why he is beating these women. And Muhammad says, okay, Allah has not permitted you, blah, 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 without permission. Okay, you're not permitted to enter the houses. So he tells his people, okay, don't go into their houses without permission. Do not beat their women or eat their fruits when they give you what is imposed upon them. He's referring here to dhimmis. In other words, if they give you, right, if you go there and demand money, if you go there and demand food, if you go there and demand possessions, and they comply, they give you, then don't beat their women.
Huh.
But if they don't comply, then yes, beat their women, he says. So don't enter the houses of the people of the book, those are Jews and Christians, without permission. Don't do it or beat their women if they give you that which is imposed on them. So he gives permission to beat women because he's asked, "Why are you beating our women?" And he says, "Well, if you complied and gave us money, we wouldn't have to beat your women." QED.
Huh.
This is a holy text. Yes, Michael, this is what they call a holy text. Your thoughts, Shimon?
Well, that's that's very interesting. It reminds me of jizya, right? Where they've got
Yes.
to pay
Yeah.
that non-Muslims are to pay to be non-Muslims.
Yeah.
You kind of
Yeah.
can't be a non-Muslim without tax.
Yes. Nicholas Paulson said, "I knew that Islam wasn't really the best when it comes to this topic, but this is even worse than I knew. It almost makes me nauseated." Nicholas, yes. Look, thanks for always being in the channel. Appreciate the support. But yes, it is incredible. I read this stuff and it makes me feel dirty afterwards. It's horrifying to read this, and it gets worse. I assure you, it gets worse. We have a lot to get through. Maybe not all tonight, but certainly this is just starting to dig. And yeah, this is standard Islam. Yeah, Jesus saved me. Said
Well,
impose is the key word in this religion. Yes. So yeah, your
you know,
thoughts, Shimon?
an interesting thing is that a lot of my Muslim friends would not even know of any of this stuff. A lot of them, a lot of them
Yes,
would not.
yes. Look, let's be honest. The imams lie to their flock. They just flat out lie to them because people would leave Islam if they knew this was Islam. Islam will never be what they think it is. They're told it is the most perfect religion, the most beautiful religion. It is that Jews and Christians are evil. We are corrupt. We are liars. And yet, and when we say things about their religion, they claim that we are using um, twisted texts from evil missionary sites. And no, this is their own scriptures. We're being honest. This is what is in their text. Veronica at
Yeah,
the Well says Islam exceeds every expectation in a negative way beyond wildest imagination. I mean, yeah, it's enough to make me puke as well. It's horrifying. To read this stuff is horrifying. I read their books and it's incredible how mentally draining it is. How can it get any worse? Ajay Kujur says, "How can it get any worse than this?" Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. Yeah, it's
yeah.
horrifying.
I can vouch for that. Is that every time I've actually sat down to have a discussion with you, Lloyd, you have not failed to shock me with with the information that you actually expose on. So,
Yeah.
anyways, let's continue.
Actually, look. So
Let's
so
continue.
look. I need to show this, Ajay. I'm going to show you this. I want to show you this one more time. People need to understand. I want people to understand Islam is evil. Okay? Islam is evil. I want you to learn this. I want you to know this. It is genuinely satanic evil. This is from a Sharia manual. This is from the laws of marriage and divorce. This book is still used in the courts in Pakistan, in other countries too, but it's the number two most popular Islamic law resource in Pakistan. It's called the Digest of Mohammedan Law. This is the law. When a man has had sexual intercourse with a girl under the age of 9 years old and he has torn her vagina, it is unlawful for him to have further sex with her, but she is not released from her ties if connected to him by marriage or by slavery. If no damage has taken place, if her vajayjay is not damaged by this man having sex with a prepubescent girl, the prohibition is not incurred and he can continue to have sex with her. Understand, prepubescent sex with infants, and I mean sex with children under the age of 1 in Islam is legal. I went through that with Shamoon 3 weeks ago. We did a show. I went through all the law on that. It is legal. Shamoon, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this somehow does tie in nicely with the topic of tonight, the violence that women face. Wives definitely are beaten, but women definitely, at in a broader context, do face violence at the hands of Islamic men. At least they are allowed to violate women in that regard. Sexual violation is allowed,
Yeah,
as far as we've seen. And at this stage, it, it's a matter of speaking the truth and what is found within the sources, that sexual violence rather, is allowed. Physical violence with hands and whips is allowed. And a most creative one was tonight, was where physical violence with horses is allowed, whereby a woman is tied and she is
torn apart.
tied between two horses and torn apart.
Yeah. You will
That
not find that
definitely.
in the Gospels. This is why Muslims have to lie about what is in the Gospels. Let me show you this. So this
Uh,
continues from the other. You remember we had the hadith where we discussed where a woman is scourged, right? Where
yeah,
do
go
not
ahead.
whip your wife the way you'd whip your slave. Now it says here. So they talk about the had punishments, right? Or the huddad, right? So concerning such matters, the Prophet advised parents to deter their children from doing wrong, but this doesn't apply to just children. So these punishments are prescribed to set the people straight and to put a stop, pardon me, to their evil. It was narrated from Ibn Abbas that a messenger of Allah said, hang your whip with the members of the household and see it, for this will discipline them. Right? So the threat is always there. It is Hassan. So understand. So hang your whip where people can see it, because that will remind them. There's an implicit threat of violence there. Let's look at this one. If a slave girl, and don't forget, slavery is legal in Islam. It has never. Debbie Davidos, who thinks of this kind of evil, who writes, Debbie, who writes in a law text, if you have sex with a girl under the age of 9 and you destroy her, then stop doing it. But if nothing happens, it's all good, continue. Who sits down, writes that, and thinks that this is good? And then they turn around and say that we are evil. And it's disgusting. It is utterly disgusting. I'm shocked by this. Even having read this, I can't explain to you how angry this makes me. Shamoon.
Yeah, I'm a little bit struck at the fact, I'm somewhat blown away at how is Islam surviving in contemporary culture and society at this stage. I must say dishonesty
Through
must
dishonesty,
then be prevailing factor for Islam to actually survive at this stage.
it has
It is
to
either
lie.
dishonesty or it is a complete reform of the entire religion, because
No,
the
there
entire
can be no
religion at
reform.
this
I mean, that's
stage.
impossible. Look, first of all, Islam lies. It is compulsory. Remember, it is compulsory. And look, no Muslim I've ever asked will bring up the Sharia. I've given them the books. They will not discuss it with me. but it is compulsory, it is obligatory, it is mandatory for Muslims to lie to you about their religion. It is required. It is not optional. It is mandatory for them to lie about Islam to you, right? And also, it is mandatory for them to lie to themselves about it. Unfortunately, this is the
Yeah,
situation they're in. And also, the
just
final
on the
problem
issue.
is tolerance. We are tolerant. We don't ask the hard questions. We don't confront them. We've been tolerant. Oh, it's just like Christianity, except with more beards and funny dresses. No, it's not. We need to confront
Uh,
them and ask them about this. Yeah.
I wanted to just quickly point out that if anyone wants to look into the issue of Islam and lies, the deception, the allowed, somewhat from, to a certain extent, holy deception from the Islamic perspective, please look up the term taqiyya. You will definitely come across a lot of stuff on that. And eventually, Lloyd and myself will definitely go through
Forget Takia.
some.
Takia is yeah, actually, guys, you know what? I'm going to cover this now since you did bring this up. So, guys, I'm going to cover this. I know. Okay, so look, you can all see my screen at this point. So, guys, this is a
Yeah,
section. So, in the Sharia, right, in Islamic law, in Islamic sacred law, they call it. Don't forget, this is sacred law. There is a section called lying, right? There is unlawful lying and there is permissible lying. In other words, it is permitted to lie. Okay, so Bam Bamster says ignorance, deception has been called a racist if you quote the satanic sources. Yes. Now, there is lying between husband and wife. It is permissible. Okay, it is legal to lie between husband and wife, and it is legal to lie to circumvent those forbidding the permissible. Now, Islam is the permissible, we are the forbidders. We're the ones who don't want Islam, right? Now, and there is
yeah.
obligatory lying. Understand? There is obligatory lying. So let's go to that chapter. Permissible lying. So he who settles disagreements between people. So when Yahya or some idiot, okay, comes on the channel and says, no, you're wrong, we all worship the same God, we all love Jesus, and all this nonsense, right? They're trying to make peace between us. They're making peace by lying. This is not considered lying. If you lie to make peace in Islam, it is not considered lying. So he who settles disagreements between people to bring about good or says something commendable is not a liar. So if you lie to bring peace, you're not a liar. The Prophet did lie about three things: war, settling disagreements, and a man talking with his wife. So Muhammad lied to his wives. Okay? This is an
Huh.
explicit statement that lying is sometimes permissible for a given interest. Okay, but now let's define this. So this is revealed in stages. So lying is permissible for a given interest in Islam. Okay, lying is lawful. So Ghazali, the best analysis is by Abu Hamid Ghazali. He is not just a Sheikh al-Islam. The he is the he's the most senior of all of the Islamic scholars besides Muhammad. Okay, I believe he's called the Hujjat al-Islam. He is the senior scholar above all the Islamic scholars. He says speaking is a means to achieve objectives. If a praiseworthy aim is attainable through both telling the truth and by lying, it is unlawful to accomplish through lying because there is no need. When it is possible to achieve such an aim by lying, but not by telling the truth, it is permissible to lie if attaining the goal is permissible. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, when is it not permissible to make Islam dominant? When is it not permissible to promote Islam? Well, there are no times when it is not permissible. When the purpose of lying is to circumvent someone who is preventing one from doing something permissible, that would be you, the Christian apologist, who is preventing them from making Islam dominant. Okay, so it is permissible to lie when you are trying to get around or circumvent or defeat someone who is preventing you from doing something permissible. And it is obligatory to lie if the goal is obligatory. Okay, let's continue. It is not unlawful to lie when any one of these aims can only be attained through lying. It is religiously more precautionary in all such cases to employ words that give a misleading impression. In other words, now they're talking about tawriya. Now they're talking about, you know, now they're talking about lying through omission, right? Lying through kitman, tawriya. This is not, so maybe not explicitly lying, but misleading, which is lying. To mislead is to lie.
It's deceptive. Yeah, it's
It is
sneaky.
being deceptive. So this
Yeah.
is deception. This is the spirit of deceit. For your father is the father of lies. Islam allows lying. It is obligatory. Because think of this. It is obligatory to destroy Christianity. It is obligatory to make Islam the dominant religion in the world. It is obligatory to make everyone worship Bahala, right? Baala. I think that's the name of the deity, right? So it is obligatory. So therefore, it is obligatory to lie to you at all times.
Huh.
Okay,
This is
understand.
fascinating. Yeah.
So now the outward. So think about this. Okay, so the outward meaning of the words deceives the hearer. So the outward. So give a misleading impression. So the outward meaning of the words deceives the hearer. Okay, so understand. It is not unlawful to lie, right? If you're just trying to deceive, it's okay to lie. What I did seriously, man. But notice that this you should compare the bad consequences entailed by lying to those entailed by telling the truth. And if the consequences of telling the truth are more damaging, you are entitled to lie. So in other words, if the consequences of admitting the truth about Sharia law, the truth about Islam is damaging to Islam, then you are entitled to lie. It is then obligatory to lie. Does this make sense to everybody and to you,
So
Shamun?
it's lying is basically a part of their moral structure. Like, do not commit adultery. Within,
Yep.
let's just assume for a moment, the Christian ten commandments, right? Do not do this, do not do that. Thou shalt worship one God, etc., etc. And then within the Islamic moral structure, at least it comes in is that thou shalt lie in many areas. It's okay for you to lie.
Yeah.
that's that's fascinating. That their very morals are very
Yep.
very self-preservative, and at any cost,
Yeah.
even to
Well,
a
notice
certain
here
extent when it comes
they have
to
to not lie in every case where it is not legally obligatory. Now, let's just let's just reverse this. It is obligatory to lie in every case where it is legally obligatory. Don't lie if you don't have to, but when it's obligatory, you must lie. Quite bluntly,
so it's
that's the
not like
law.
you can, but you actually must.
Yeah, you must. Which is
Yeah,
legally
because
obligatory.
if you make Islam look anything lesser than what is perceived of, I guess that would be sinful, right?
Yeah, let me actually bring up this. So, guys, so we want to define some of these things. We haven't gone through every single passage that I want to bring up, but let me download this file and let me show you. So, guys, the comments, yeah, they say we are corrupted. I mean, this is Islam, and Muslims need to start to deal with the truth of that. So on this, I want to say that this is the reason here. For those who are new, welcome and thank you for joining us. And guys, please like the show, please subscribe, please share, and also please go to Shamoon's channel and please subscribe to him there. Um, so this is the reason here that Muslims must lie about and deny the negative things said about Muhammad in the Sirah, and in the Hadith. Scholars have consensus that this is the Sharia law on insulting Muhammad. Scholars have consensus that whoever insults the messenger, attributing a defect to him, then such a person is a disbeliever. The Muslim who insults is killed. There is no disagreement concerning that. This is the view of the four Imams and others. I do not know of anyone who differed concerning the obligation of killing such a person. Let me go to the beginning. This book is called, and okay, the summary, sorry, my bad. The Unsheathed Sword Against the One Who Insults the Messenger. Not Allah, but against the Messenger. By Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. And let's look at the book. As you open the book, this is what you find immediately. Whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed, whether they are Muslim or a disbeliever. Ask any French school teacher if they mean this or not. Killing is prescribed on him, the one who insults the
French
Prophet.
teacher.
Ask any French school
You
teacher
know,
if they agree with this. Killing is prescribed on him, the one who insults the Prophet. It is not permissible to imprison or show favor to him or to ransom him. Any non-Muslim or Muslim who insults the Prophet is to be killed, and repentance is not sought. Understand? So if a Muslim,
Geez, dude,
yeah,
you don't have to go that far. I'm a convert, man. They'll come and kill me now.
yeah, no, if you go through this book, you are just going to find they are to be killed. Okay, the scholars have consensus. Whoever insults Muhammad is to be killed. This is the general view of the scholars. They have unanimous agreement upon killing whoever insults the Prophet. Okay, understand? It
Sure.
just goes. This book just goes on and on and on like this about killing, killing, killing.
And
If you insult Muhammad,
this is Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah.
Taymiyyah, the expert on the subject. Yes. Yeah, that's quite a summary on
Ibn
the first page,
Taymiyyah
Veronica. You're right. Yeah.
Ibn Taymiyyah, one who is actually respected by a lot of
Yep.
these scholars that
Yep.
we actually spoke about, Shabir Ali, Muhammad Hijab.
Yep.
I've personally have never really heard anyone talk bad about Ibn Taymiyyah.
If you start to reveal what he actually said, then they will start to lie about him. I've got several of his books and I know them. And yeah, then they'll start to say, well, actually, this guy didn't like him and that guy said he was whatever. Pardon me.
Yeah, well, now that we've been through the Sharia that says that lying becomes obligatory, at that
Yeah.
stage,
So
then what else can we conclude? Okay,
so let's
anyways,
look through let's look through the
we've only
Sharia
got
on wife
a
beating.
few,
Sorry?
yeah, we've only got a few more minutes, so
Yeah.
let's quickly just dive into a bit of Sharia.
So yeah, so guys, I'm going to repeat some of what I've done before, but it's important that I impress this upon you and understand you're dealing some religions are evil. This deen, not religion, is evil. And we have been, I think, look, you guys know my views. I believe that the Quran is a waste of time and the Hadith to a large degree are a waste of time. The truth is found in the Sharia, right? The Sharia summarizes everything. It is what remains after abrogation. It is the final analysis of Islam by its top scholars, and it references the Quran as needed. It references the Hadith as needed, so that you can then learn which of these sources are not abrogated. These are the final sources that remain, right? So Christian apologists and academics need to learn the Sharia because the Quran is it's a mess. The Sharia is clear, definitive, unambiguous. So this is Imam Nawawi. This is the Minhaj al-Taliban, right? At the first indication of disobedience to marital authority, a wife should be exhorted by her husband without his immediately breaking off relations. So the moment she gives you any indication that she's not being totally submissive to you, you should speak to her. In other words, just immediately you pounce on her. When she manifests disobedience by an
So,
act which, though isolated, leaves no doubt as to her intentions, he should repeat his exhortations and confine her to a chamber, but without hitting her. He may have recourse to blows even when disobedience is manifested by an isolated act. In other words, he can hit her even on the very first appearance of what he determines to be an act of disobedience. Only where there are repeated acts of disobedience may a husband inflict corporal punishment. Your thoughts?
yeah, this Surah 434, right? Interesting.
This is, yeah, so this is
And
Menage Taliban, page 318, and you can see the
okay,
link to it
and
here. Yes?
everyone, please kind of take note of this specific and very helpful, I think, parenthesis over here is that corporal chastisement is assumed, at least within the Muslim community, contemporary Muslim community, is hitting with two fingers, toothbrush, or poking with a little bit of a toothpick or whatever the case is. In the parenthesis above here, you'll see he says that
Let's,
he may have recourse to blows.
to blows,
Um,
yeah. So what is
yeah.
corporal punishment? Let's have a look. Corporal punishment. I don't know. Yeah, I do see any toothpicks here. I'm looking for the toothpick. Anybody? What is corporal punishment? Corporal punishment in many families today is illegal. In many countries, it's illegal. What is corporal punishment? Is it still allowed?
It
Corporal
really,
punishment
I
is the
don't,
infliction
yeah,
of physical pain for a crime or infraction.
objectively,
Yeah.
objectively looking at this situation, even if we have to like take a moment and go back to the document, could
Well,
you please take us back to the
well, let's have a
document?
look quickly. Hold on. Corporal punishment, the infliction of physical pain upon a person's body as punishment for a crime or infraction. Corporal punishment includes flogging, beating, branding, mutilation,
Mutilation,
blinding,
blind.
and the use of the stock and pillory. That's torture.
In a
I
broad sense, the term also denotes the physical disciplining of children in the schools and at home.
corporal punishment, hitting with a slipper. I'm sure. Yeah, toothbrush. My honestly, yeah. You were saying, sorry?
So I was saying, like, if we could go back, is that corporal
Uh,
chastisement, like even for a moment assuming that allowing Sharia to in itself define what corporal chastisement at this point means is found within the the parenthesis is that he may have recourse to blows, and I cannot in my mind think how blows is possible with a toothbrush
or two fingers.
or two fingers. That's not
Yeah.
blows, that's
Well,
touching.
yeah.
And
So let's
yes,
continue. So,
blows
guys,
is
yeah,
really very serious.
yeah.
Anyways, let's
No.
continue.
So let's look at the reliance of the traveler. Okay, links in the description below. Reliance M10.11 dealing with a rebellious wife. Okay, when a husband notices signs of rebelliousness in his wife, or in words, as when she answers him coldly when she used to do so politely, or he asks her to come to bed and she refuses. In other words, if she won't have sex with you, you know what the punishment is. Contrary to a usual habit, or whether in acts, as when he finds her averse to him, when she was previously kind and cheerful, he warns her in words. He threatens her. I think they mean threatens. Without keeping from her or hitting her. They're so kind enough, just warn her, but don't hit her yet. Suggested, not commanded, suggested. It may be that she has an excuse. The warning could be to tell her, fear Allah concerning the rights you owe me. Or it could be to explain that rebelliousness nullifies his obligation to support her and give her a turn amongst other wives. Now remember, support her means no food, no clothing. Lock her in her room, no food, no clothing. Or it could be to inform her your obeying me is religiously obligatory. If she commits rebelliousness, he keeps from sleeping and having sex with her without words, and he may hit her. So in other words, he can do all three at the same time.
Huh.
There's no order. There's no actual particular order. These are the things you can do, but you could start with hitting her, right? But not in a way that injures her. Now, this, we don't know if this is in the original, and it seems to be nowhere in any original. This is added by the translator. So it says he may not bruise her, break her bones, wound her, or cause blood to flow. It is unlawful to strike another's face. Now, notice we saw that hadith where it says that Muhammad said, when you beat someone, don't hit their face. You should
Well,
not.
at least they're being consistent to that extent, at least.
Although it says he may hit her, he definitely may hit her with it's rebellious once or more than once. So the first time, the next time, and every time in between. The first time, the last time, and every other time, right? He may hit her. A weaker opinion holds that he may not hit her unless there is repeated rebelliousness. In other words, the first time is good enough. She does it, hit her. So, and of course, it is not lawful for a wife to leave the house except by the permission of the husband. That's strict Sharia. So, yes, I think the Sharia is very, very clear. He may hit her. Of course, once you start hitting her, how do you control the beating? How do you give her a polite beating? Your thoughts on that?
I think, huh? Yeah, I guess I'm not sure about bruising her and breaking her bones and wounding her, causing. Okay, so I guess bruise her, break her bones without breaking somebody's bones. Wounding her is, I'm assuming, causing blood to flow. That would be
Where's
cutting
the
her up,
original source of this?
stabbing her.
Because the sources all just say beat. They don't specify.
Yeah, so I guess it would be, but once again, it's like, how would you use a whip, which we saw in the hadith that the Prophet himself is actually encouraging beating with a whip. How do you beat with a whip and not bruise?
You
That's
just beat
a
them a
bit of
little
a,
bit. That's all. You just beat them a little bit.
yeah,
You know,
it's,
it's Islamic science. It's
but then
Islamic
there's,
science. You beat them a
but
little
that's
bit with the
weird.
whip.
No, but like beat them a little bit. But then there's other portions of hadith that we came across that what said that you can continue beating her till she fixes, mends her ways. The word
Yeah, the
was
beatings
mends
will
her ways.
continue until the morale improves. Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah, but then how would she not get bruised? Well, anyways,
Of course she's going to
I
get
digress.
bruised. I mean, look, they're lying
Yeah.
to themselves. They're lying to the reader. Look, this stuff has been whitewashed for the reader. Okay. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. Jesus saved me, said, oh, gee, thanks. Please beat me, but don't hit my face. Notice it says here, if keeping from her is ineffectual, it is permissible to hit her if he believes that hitting her will bring her back to the right path. Although if he does not think so, it is not permissible. I don't know, whatever. His hitting her may not be in a way that injures her, and it is his last recourse to save the family. I have to beat you to save the marriage. Okay, thanks, buddy. So don't forget, Quran 434 says to beat them.
Sorry, sorry. Please forgive me. That was just funny the way you put it.
Sorry,
Please forgive
I
me.
have to laugh at this. Now, notice this. This is Aisha again getting slapped again. Okay? So Aisha said to the Prophet, you speak, but don't speak except truth. Now, she says to Muhammad, talk, speak to me, but don't lie to me. She's saying, don't lie to me. And at this point, at once, Hazrat Abu Bakr gave her such a slap that blood began to ooze from her mouth. So she told Muhammad not to lie to her. No chocolates and flowers, Debbie David, you're right. So she got beaten so hard that blood came out of her mouth because she told Muhammad not to lie to her. Why would she say this? Because Muhammad was lying to her. I think that's pretty obvious.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so why don't so Hope Faith says, our friend says, guys, why don't Muslims talk about wife beating when they share the good news of Islam? Because there is no good news and they're lying to themselves. So yeah, so guys, let's continue with this. A woman came to Muhammad and begged him to stop her husband from beating her. Her skin was bruised so badly that it is described as being greener than the green veil she was wearing. Muhammad did not speak to her husband. He ordered her to return to him and submit to his sexual desires. That's Sahih Bukhari 72715. Right? So Aisha said, I have not seen any woman suffering as much as the believing women. So Muhammad's own wife complained that Muslim women were abused worse than other women.
Oh my goodness. So this is in Sahih Bukhari.
Yeah,
Shame, man. Shame. Imagine like a child, a girl, small little girl talking and recording. It was significant. Excuse me. It
yeah.
was significant enough for her to actually record this specific thing, and she's like expressing what you can see is that she's expressing her sentiments. Is that it's really tough for women in Islam, the
Yeah,
believing women, the Muslim women have got it tough. It's
there's
difficult for
multiple
us.
records like this. You can see there's I've got a bunch of these references here of Sahih
That
Bukhari. There's numerous
I
ones.
must say, if there is any Muslim, friends listening, honestly, this should really challenge you into really just digging into your own sources and really finding the truth for yourself. I think I really plead this of you at this stage.
Yeah, so yeah, we can go. So what I want to do is next time is discuss sexual slavery in Islam.
Yeah,
I think we've beaten the beating issue to death here.
yeah.
Do you think we've I think we've kind of covered that topic. There are other sources I could find, I could go through, but I think we've established that it is certainly sunnah, it is law, it is lawful, and we can talk about the attitude towards women and sexual slavery in Islam, the how it is legal to make sex slaves out of women in Islam. We can discuss that next time and go through some of that.
Okay,
Uh,
so what we'll do is treatment of women in Islam, part three. Does Islam encourage sexual slavery of women? That's
yeah,
We'll look at that then. Is that okay?
yeah, I think so. So, guys, I hope that was useful. I hope that was a thorough overview of what goes on in Islam. I hope we've discussed some of the aspects of lying, of permissible legal lying within Islam. There are multiple doctrines. I showed that last week, as you know. I did cover that last week. If I go to, right, if we go through this section here, I've covered this last week, Islamic doctrine of deception, right? The doctrines of deceit. These are multiple doctrines of, let me just go through and show you guys this. So these are the multiple Islamic doctrines of deceit. We've covered this last week. There is a OneDrive link in the description. Please bring up the link. It'll open in the browser, and this database, it's called Women in Islam or something like that. You'll see the page. So all the notes that I have here, you will find that you can open it. It's got that and some other information I've had in other shows we've discussed. So yeah, you'll be able to link to everything that I show you here in the OneDrive link. So please use that and show this to people. Like show it to people, show it to Muslims, ask them about it, confront them with it. They need to be honest about what their deen teaches. Yeah. Oh, of course, yeah. Bull
Um,
Shepherd said Muslims deny Islam even when you show them their books. Yeah, they have to. They must because they cannot insult Islam. To deny that Islam is perfect, to say that Islam isn't better than Christianity, to claim that that Muhammad is not perfect is blasphemy, and the death penalty falls upon them for doing so. So unfortunately, Islam forces them to deny their own texts because they have to believe that Islam and Muhammad are perfect. So yeah,
yeah.
this is what Islam causes forces upon Muslims.
Can I please quickly just say
Sure.
something here? As an ex-Muslim, one of the most, I can say, reaffirming factors is meeting somebody like you, first of all, Lloyd, who actually has been taking me through some deep study of Islamic sources and stuff. And one of the things that is really affirmed is that true love and how love is defined can only come from the person of Christ. We find not only a worldly understanding of love, not somebody who actually does not simply come and talk about love and then acts differently privately and publicly while talking and proclaiming love, but somebody who actually demonstrates a perfect love all the way to the cross and beyond, the
Hmm.
person of Jesus Christ. And how is it that I can at this stage continue to be blind to the beauty of Christ and Christianity as a religion? I must say that this kind of conversation really, it firstly, it breaks my heart that honestly, that there are those men and women that are remain uninformed and ignorant of their own religion, that they don't know these things and they're somewhat enslaved to such ideologies. So I think that for all the Christians watching, pray for Lloyd and myself that we would continue to be able to do this, and really that we will be able to engage with Muslims more lovingly and truly bring out this information with them, and that they will be open to hearing what we've got to say honestly. So yeah, that's all I wanted to
Yeah.
say.
Okay, guys. So I'm gonna wrap this up, and just finally before I end, yeah, I had some news this week. My father is um, a little tough to say, but my dad's good grief. My dad's been diagnosed. Um, Pray for my dad, please. Yeah, sorry. Guys, sorry that was an emotional moment, but yeah, I've been a little absent-minded. My dad is really ill. So, anyway, thanks, guys.